if a 58-year-old lady like me can have a crack and work hard and do it, then, you know, anybody who wants to do it, who inputs in the work, there's no reason why they can't.
Hey everyone, this is Brad from Outperform Fitness and welcome to another Tactical Career Chat. So today we're going to be chatting to Gayle, who has just wrapped up basic training for the Army Reserves at 58 years of age. So we're going to be chatting about her whole journey right from the very start all the way through to where she is right now, including why she signed up, how she trained, and what the whole experience was like for her. So just a quick disclaimer before we get started, this career chat is presented as a personal experience and is not on the behalf of the Australian Defence Force. I say again, this is a personal experience and not on the behalf of the ADF. Welcome to the chat, Gayle, and thank you very much for joining this and giving everyone your insights of your enlistment and your journey all the way through it. So let's start with a bit about you. So what does a day-to-day life look like for you outside of the Army Reserves at the moment?
Yeah, okay. So I'm a public servant with Defence at the moment. So my day-to-day life is pretty much, I'm used to working with Defence people, Defence personnel and Defence systems. And my hours are pretty much 8 till 4. So that's me outside of enlistment.
Yeah, nice. So you're getting a bit of the defence on the outside world as well. And then you're getting in and putting the uniform on and doing the inside stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've been working with APS. What made you want to take the next step to actually enlist as a reservist?
Look, it's something I've been thinking about for quite a few years, but, you know, obviously I just had to wait for the right time in life. And it just happened to be I was working with some tri-service people, Army, Navy, Air Force, on a project, and they just really inspired me, you know, like the work they do, their love for the service and, you know, just their motivation. They really sort of got me on board and got me really interested, and that's where it pretty much started.
Yeah, awesome. So with that, like with all that work with those guys, was there a defining moment where you just like, you know, this is what you want to do. I'm going to join.
Oh, actually, you know, there was working with those guys was a big part of it, but there was one day, particular time I was living in Canberra, and first time I'd been to the War Memorial there, and I meant to go just for a couple of hours. I spent about 5 hours walking around, taking it all in, just reading everything, feeling the nostalgia, the feelings, just it really got my heart pumping. By the time I left the War Memorial, I was 100%, this is what I need to do.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So was that after that, or was that initial time that you wanted to join, or was there something prior to that?
No, look, that was before that. My great-grandfather, he was he landed at Gallipoli. He was part of Jackers Mob. I'm sure a lot of Army people will know about Jackers Mob in World War One. My other grandfather, he served in World War Two. So, you know, I'd always had an interest in what they'd done, serving their country, you know, and a lot of my friends are military as well. And I'm really interested in, you know, what they've done with operations and service and different things. So it felt like a calling, but it just wasn't the right time until, you know, the last probably 12 months.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's it. It's got to fall in line with life and what's going on. And yeah, and you got to jump on it with, no matter what time it is. So yeah, on that at 58, most people are winding down and looking at pretty much stopping work. And yeah, you're jumping into the Defence Force. So what gave you the drive to do something so physically and mentally challenging as joining the Army?
Yeah, I did ask myself that about a week into Kapooka, but no, you know, look, I've always been fit and healthy, and I've always been interested in doing something to try and serve the community. And I don't really see age as or for me, I mean, some people it is, but for me, age is just a number. I just didn't see that as a barrier. I just thought, this is what I want to do. This is what I need to do to achieve it. And I really just put my head down and worked. I was pretty determined to get through. As I said, you know, like age really, you know, didn't really factor too much into my decision.
Yeah, awesome. And at the moment, I obviously chat to loads and loads of people on a daily basis that are trying to go through and join the Army or are just in the Defence Force all around. And it's actually becoming a very common thing. like 45, 50 and beyond, the people joining the Defence Force and really putting their best foot forward to do it. And they're a lot of the time showing up the young ones as well, which is
Yeah,
good
well,
to
the
see.
average age of our platoon was 35. The oldest was 60. So believe it or not, I wasn't actually the oldest in my
How
platoon.
about that?
It was pretty crazy. There was a lot of people in their 40s, a few in their 50s. The youngest was 18, but we were a pretty mature age platoon.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, it's becoming, yeah, a very common thing. Whereas when I went through back in 2005, it was mainly young people. We had some older people there, but it was far and few between. It was a lot more younger people. And I'm sure it's still the bulk of it when you would look at the overall thing. But yeah, seeing the older recruits go through is pretty common now.
Yeah, and I noticed even in the full-time platoons, there was a few mature age people in there as well. So yeah,
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah.
So, what was the reaction from friends and family and work colleagues and all that sort of stuff when you said, I'm enlisting"?
Oh, look, it was a mixed reaction. I think a few people thought I was a little bit crackers but most people were really supportive when they understood why I wanted to do it and my passion for it. And, just the fact that I was prepared to step up and put in the hard work to have a go. I think most people thought that was really inspiring. I've got
Yeah.
a 32-year-old son and he looked up to me. He looks up to me and he's kind of like, Mum, maybe I'll do something like that one day too.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
if I can inspire people to have a go, then that's great.
Yeah. And how good's that? Your son looking up to you at 58 years old and yeah, you're doing the crazy stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Awesome. You came into the Battle Ready program with the mindset to not just pass, but being the best that you can be. So at that time, what did that really look like for you? What is, you being the best that you can be moving into the Defence Force?
Yeah, okay. So the best I can be, obviously there's physical fitness is a big part of it. So before I came into the Battle Ready program, I was just, going to the gym and doing a few weights and things and having a basic level of fitness, but, really needing to get my upper body strength. After I'd spoken to a few people about what you needed to do to get through, and upper body strength was one of those things. So I really needed to sort of work on that. But mentally as well, like I really needed to, not that I'm not a negative person in any way, but I really needed to make sure that my mental resilience was in place as well before I tackled something like this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you want to be in a good spot, at least strength wise, because yeah, you'll be tested. That's for sure. Wondering why
Oh,
you're there.
100%, and looking back on reflection now, I don't think I would have gotten through as well as I did, or maybe not even at all. I'm not sure. If I hadn't have had that strength that I'd gained through the Battle Ready program, not just the physical strength, but the mental strength that goes with training and trying to build yourself up to that level as well. So I think that was a huge part of why I did get through.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and actually, you already touched on one of the things that you mentioned really early on was that your upper body strength and endurance was sort of your challenge. So, yeah, was that a pretty big challenge to get through for you? Did you find you struggled with that the most out of everything else?
Before Kapooka or during Kapooka?
Yeah, just before Kapooka.
I struggle with that because I didn't really know the right exercises to do or the right way to do them. So I was just sort of watching people at the gym and, a bit of copycat stuff and not really getting the proper benefits and building the right sort of strength I needed.
Yeah,
So it wasn't until I sort of hooked into the Battle Ready program and really started to understand exactly what type of strength I'd need and, start doing that, following that program was where I really started to see the benefits and build the strength.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's it. Get a proper plan in place, and it makes a big difference when, yeah,
Yeah.
you go on every workout, every exercise, everything that you're doing's got a purpose behind it, and it's planned out in advance as well, rather than just going workout to workout or week to week sort of thing.
How many times I thought about how grateful I was for the Battle Ready program when I was carrying a pack or carrying the weapon or doing, a whole bunch of things that we were doing there. And I was really grateful that I'd done
Yeah,
that training to
yeah,
be able to handle that because it's a lot of heavy stuff. And I'm a little girl. I'm 5'2" and weigh about 50 kilos. So it was really important for me to have the best strength base I could possible.
yeah, yeah. It definitely makes a difference. So a big struggle that a lot of people have, and I remember it being one of yours as well, is managing your training around your work life commitments. So for yourself, were there times that you thought it was nearly impossible to get all the training in around everything else that you do?
Oh, definitely. Because I had a 6 day a week program and 1 day rest and, working full time as well. It was definitely a struggle. But again, that's where your mental strength, your mental resilience, and your determination comes in. And I just put my head down and thought, it's a short period of time. I really just need to knuckle down and do it. So I just made myself do it. There was days when I didn't want to. There was days when it was really hard. But, I just pushed through because I thought, if I can't push through this, how can I push through Kapooka?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And coming back to the purpose with training as well, and it's there for a purpose, not just physically, but the mental side of being disciplined enough to get it in and schedule your day out and manage your time and all that sort of stuff. There's when it's got that purpose, you're more likely to stick with it as well, because it gives everything a reason to do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it does.
So what helped you the most, do you think, with those weeks being a little bit more consistent than what you normally would? So do you manage your time in a certain way, or was it more just a mindset shift of I need to get this done, so you just make it happen? What do you think it was the biggest thing helping you with those tough weeks to get it all in?
Look, it was a little bit of both. Obviously, time management, I had to be able to schedule my days to fit it all in, but it was just sheer determination of knowing, listening to previous chats you'd had with people and everything. If I don't put in this hard work, I'm not going to get the results and I'm not going to get through. And, now that I can sit back and reflect on Kapooka, 100%, you
Yeah.
need to put in the results. Yeah. You need to put in the work, sorry, to get the
Yeah, for sure.
results. Yeah.
And now you're on the other end. Now you are doing a career chat, helping
Yeah,
everyone else
yeah,
out. I
yeah,
love
yeah.
that.
It's good.
So
Good to be at the other end of it.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's good to see other people on the other end as well, like making your way all the way through, and just that feeling of accomplishment, getting yourself into that uniform is a massive thing. It's awesome. I'm Coach Brody, an Australian Army veteran and tactical strength and conditioning coach. I've trained countless applicants, tactical professionals, veterans, and fitness enthusiasts to build their strength, endurance, and resilience needed to perform at their best. If you're an inspiring applicant or currently serving, you need a plan that prepares you specifically for fitness tests, operational demands, and increase your injury resilience due to the high physical standards of service. Fit for Service is built to get you exactly that. Or maybe you've already served, or you're a fitness enthusiast looking to commit to lifelong strength, endurance, and resilience. Fit for Life gives you a structured system to keep progressing and performing at your best. Both training plans follow a structured, progressive system backed by experience and real results. No fluff, no wasted effort, just training that works. So are you ready? Choose the training plan below and let's get started. So
Yeah.
enlistment side of things. So just your application and enlistment process and everything like that. Like a rough figure, how long did it take you to go through the whole process?
It was pretty much bang on 12 months.
Yeah. Did you
Yeah.
run into any roadblocks along the way with that?
Look, I didn't. I had a pretty easy run through, because I didn't have any issues. Some people have to get medical clearances and things like that. I didn't have any of that. So I was pretty lucky and I did have a good recruitment person looking after me, but there wasn't really too many issues for me at all getting through it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, no issues, still 12 months.
Yeah.
How good's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
did you, when you enlisted, did you go off to basic training pretty much straight away, or what was that period for you? So you've enlisted now, yeah, how long between you actually enlisting and going off to Kapooka?
Yeah, well, I had to schedule around work. So it was 3 months. I think I listed in February and I was in Kapooka in May. And that was purely only because of work commitments. Some of the people I enlisted with pretty much went off a couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I'm glad I had that extra time to get in that extra training that I needed.
And it's a pretty handy thing for reservists to be able to go through the process like that, and to be able to enlist, and then you're parading on a Tuesday night, and then you choose whenever you can go off to do Kapooka, because obviously it's got to work around your current job and everything as well, and and it's just a really good thing to have available to do later.
Yeah, and I'm glad I did it now because it's starting to get a bit colder there. And just towards the end of the time there was a few cold mornings and cold evenings where you were standing there just freezing, going, oh gosh,
Yeah.
wouldn't want to be doing this in June or July. But, you
Yeah.
do, I suppose, when the opportunity arises.
I don't think it's good anytime you go there. I went there in summer. It was stupidly hot. You couldn't even
Yeah.
work anymore because it was too hot. The widget told you to stop. But what
Yeah.
was the weather like when you went there?
Cold.
Yeah.
We had a few days of rain. So there was days when we were doing things when it was wet and, we'd be soaking and everything. But it was pretty cold most days.
Yeah.
So you're sort of too busy to think about it a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You're just busy trying to get through all the activities, all the day-to-day stuff. And it was only when you had sort of was standing around waiting to do something that you sort of realized it was freezing cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like 6:30 one morning, we were leopard crawling across the grass with our weapons and our gear on, and the grass was frosted. And we were thinking, well, this is not fun. But, it was okay.
They're the memories that you'll always keep looking back at it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, just back on your PFA side of things, through your enlistment, did you pass first go with your initial PFA moving into your enlistment? Did you pass that one first go?
Yeah, I passed all my PFAs. I didn't actually fail any of them. But for me, because I'm non-combat, my beep test was only 6.1. So I suppose that was a little easier for me. But yeah, I would like to have improved on that a little bit more. But, that's still a work in progress. So I think when we did the PFA at Kapooka, I was up to 6.5. So I had improved a little bit, in those few weeks before I went.
Awesome. What did the 60-year-old go like with his beep test? Was it a male or female that was 60?
Yeah, it was a male. Yeah. I don't actually know. I think he stopped around 6.1 or 6.2. There was a couple people who failed their PFA at Kapooka.
Yeah.
But I think that was just, it was about 3 days in and everyone was really tired after the first 3 days of just settling in and they just sort of missed the mark. But they, second time round, they got through. So
Good. Yeah.
It makes a difference when you're really tired and you can't think and you're trying to, meet these targets and standards. So, yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I always tell people about your fitness. You want to be super comfortable with those. I don't even call them pass marks. I call them the minimum standards, the minimum requirement that you're meant to be at. You should be able to roll out of bed on the worst day of your life and still be able to pass that thing because you may have to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. As a couple of them found out, they did have to do exactly that. But I was pretty happy to get through all that. It's a relief to get that done so that you can just get on with the rest of your training because it hangs over your head, that fear of if I don't pass, I'm going home, and you don't work really hard to get there just to go home if you can help it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You've put in all the work. Like you think 12 months worth of work for yourself. You don't want to be going home on that first week that you've just gotten there. That's just a massive waste of a lot of effort of your own.
No, and you certainly, it's not something you would want to be doing again. I know you had the career chat with Kate that time and she went back a second time. I'm guessing that for someone like me, if I had have failed the PFA, I don't know if I would have gone back a second time,
Yeah.
I might have thought twice about it because it is a bit of a challenge.
All right, let's have a chat about your basic training side of things. So what were you expecting going down there and what actually surprised you the most about it?
Look, I knew it was going to be hard. I knew that, it was going to be hectic and it was hectic. As soon as you got off the bus, it was pretty hectic. But I think what surprised me was how quickly we settled in because, mature age group, we settled in as a team after the first few days. When you get off, you don't know anyone. You're sort of eyeing everyone off and going, who are you? And, am I going to get along with you? Am I going to get along with you? You're too busy worried about your own self and getting through. And then you realize, everyone sort of pulls together as a team really quickly. And I think what not surprised me, but it was really important, to form that teamwork relationship or really, really quickly to make sure that you sort of, got through, that you supported each other. Sorry, I don't know if I'm answering that the right way.
No, definitely. Yeah.
Long days, they didn't really surprise me, but, for someone like me, I'm a 8 till 4 worker. So, to do 21 days of basically double shifts, 6 in the morning till 10 at night, that was a bit challenging the first few days, but adrenaline kicked in pretty quick. And after the first few days, I was expecting to be super exhausted, but I found I was bouncing out of bed, anticipating the hallway call from 5:30 onwards. And, and then at bed at night, I'd go to bed and my head would still be sort of ticking over, thinking about all the things we'd done.
Yeah.
I thought I'd be pretty wrecked the next day, but you get caught up in it all and you bounce up and you're really pumped and ready to go.
Yeah.
So that was really good. But I think probably one of the biggest things too is mindset, honestly, because the training, it's physically challenging, it does drain you, but if you're prepared physically, then you've got that there. But the mindset, I think, is the biggest thing. You've got to go in and get your mind right, especially when you're tired. You've got to have that resilience to be able to get through when they're yelling at you, or, it's a long day, or you're really tired because you've just walked 3.7 Ks with your pack on down to the range or something. You've really got to be able to pull together that mental resilience, because as soon as you let that slip, then you start going down a slope of, I can't do this. And once you start thinking like that, then you can't.
Yeah, definitely. And there's no such thing as work hours when you're there. You're there.
And I think one of the things that was challenging too is, just the short amount of time to do things like, time to go down to the mess and eat your meal and get back and get ready. And the first few days we had a little bit of luxury. We had like 20 minutes, half an hour for meal times. And once we started getting into, activities, and that really whittled down, you learned how to just go and eat super, super fast, and get back to, that was the thing, I suppose, just meeting time frames, which sometimes seemed like impossible, but you sort of, every time something seems impossible, we found a way to actually make it possible by working together as a team.
Yeah, for sure. And if if it's not possible, it's probably meant to not be possible. It's probably meant to just stress you out and like, how am I supposed to do this? And it's honestly probably not meant to be done.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you talk about, stressing you out for the impossible taskings. And that was true. Like there are things they do to put you in that situation. And the first few days we were like, what the hell is this? But then as it started to kick into week 2 and 3, all those little things they were doing, like the yelling and the time frames and all that discipline stuff, we started to see the reason for it, when we started doing weapons handling and first aid and drill and things like that. You started to actually understand that there was a purpose for it, that they weren't just doing it for fun. They are trying to teach you all of that for a reason, like use the full power of your voice. And the reason you do that is because obviously when if you're in a battlefield or somewhere like that, you can't talk really quietly. You've got to be able to use the power of your voice. You've got to be able to follow instructions and just do things, do things that you're told, kind of thing. So it all made sense in the second and third week.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you feel that you hit the nail on the head with that. You definitely feel when you turn up, just what is going on? Why are we even doing this? Why are we doing it this way? And then all of a sudden things start clicking. You're like, oh, wow, this is how and even like beyond basic training, and you start to see the workings behind it when you start to progress with your career a little bit more, you start to understand it even more. And and it's just a really, really good thing to understand that everything that they're doing for a reason. Sometimes it's just for a bit of fun and see how you react. But most of the time it's for a reason, to get you trained up properly.
Oh, yeah, there was definitely a few things that they did for a bit of fun to see how the reaction went. But, look, we knew that, we understood that, and we, instead of resisting, we went along with it, But I have to say that we were really lucky. We had some brilliant instructors with some really amazing experience. They'd been overseas and done a lot of different things. And so we listened to them and we learned from them, and we sort of drew a lot of things, from them. And that really helped as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so you did touch on earlier the camaraderie side of things, like that clicks straight away. Everyone's taken out of their normal environments. And I speak about this to people very often. So it's the fear of the unknown. Everyone's going into it in the same sort of situation. And you find, and even with army guys, we go in there, our heads are shaved, everyone looks the same. And you even find yourself making really good friends with people you probably wouldn't even normally talk to. Like out in the civvy world, it's probably something with a completely different personality to what your normal friends are. But down there, everyone's the same. Everyone's in the same situation. Everyone learns very quickly. I help you out, you help me out, sort of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely, and there was a lot of diversity in our group. And, like you say, people that come from all sorts of backgrounds and, people you wouldn't normally associate with. But, by the end of the 3 weeks, we were fantastic mates. We really bonded together really tightly. We've got a chat group going that we still all, chat in. And I really enjoyed that side of it, and it was really great for people to have you back. Me being older, there was a couple of things sometimes I struggled on, like when we were doing the stretcher carry exercise around the oval and I was getting a bit puffed and tired. And, the team, my section pulled together and said, rightio, your turn on the stretcher. And they carried me round to give me a break. It was little things like that. Everyone just looked out for everyone else, and if you're standing in the hallway or in your uniform wasn't right, someone would give someone a wink or, it was really good to see everyone just, no matter who they were or where they come from, pulling together and helping each other out.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that sticks with you. I think it's a very good skill that you learn within the army and the defense wide, is that, yeah, you need to be able to adapt to those sort of situations by, yeah, just making friends with people, making sure you're looking out for people because they're going to look out for you at some point because you may be really good at this thing that you're doing right now, but guess what? The next thing you're probably going to be shithouse at and you're
Yeah.
probably going to need their help. And yeah, what goes around comes around. And we work as a team. We're never individual as well. And that only happens when, yeah, you put down all those barriers you normally would with other people and you just work as a team, as people.
Yeah.
Were there any moments during your training that you really had to dig deep and push through any sort of situations or exercises or anything like that?
Yeah, there was a few with the weapons. For example, I'm a left-hander, which the instructors all went, "Oh God, a left-hander." No, I wasn't the only left-hander. There was a bunch of us, which
Me
they
too.
labeled,
Yeah.
the odd bunch. So from having I had trouble with cocking. The cocking of the weapon is on the.
It's
I
on the
had to
other
reach
side.
over and
Yeah.
cock it on the other side. So for me being, that's where strength was really important to me as well. For me being smaller and reaching over, I found that a bit of a challenge. And, I was cutting up my hand trying to do it. And a few times I was really getting to the point of, oh God, I'm not going to be able to do this. And then, I spoke to one of the instructors who was a left-hander and she gave me a few little hints and tips. And I got a little bit of confidence because I was a little bit nervous with the weapons in the sense of not frightened of them, but just, I just sort of, I don't know, I probably needed to be a little bit more aggressive with some things like that. So that was a bit of a challenge. And then obviously some of the physical stuff, we did a lot of running with stretchers and things like that. And I found that a little bit challenging just again, and I think it was the fact that I'd done all this training with my strength and built my upper body strength to get me through. I would hate to have done any of that and not done the work to build up my strength. So that they were the main things, but everything else was great. Like drill was fun. People go, drill's not fun, but it actually was it was fun learning drill. It was, doing the trauma first aid was really fun. There's so many things there that are really good about it and fun, so people have this preconceived idea as Kapooka being this really hard, scary place and you get yelled at. Well, there's a little bit of that, but it's actually really rewarding experience. It's really enriching. And I honestly, as I said to you in my message, I loved all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very fast learning that happens there.
Yeah, it is. And it is a lot to take on. And, especially if you've got, say, a class, you start in the morning at 8, like we had first aid started early at 8 and finished at 8 or something at 9. It was a long day of death by PowerPoint and a few other things. But, you find a way. You find little ways to get yourself through.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about with the left-handed weapons as well. Because I'm a lefty too. And it is weird reaching over. And I've always just like, why don't they make it's so that it's got a cocking ender on both sides, and we can, because
Yeah.
there are certain weapons that do have it on both sides, or at least you can cock from both sides. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's unfortunate for us. I always like, if you're out field and you're doing a lot of yeah, just a lot of patrolling and cocking the weapon, and or you're on the range all day. Yeah, being a left-hander, it's such a weird movement for us, and yeah, it does take a toll.
It does. Like I was trying to reach under, and because I've got small arms, that was hard. It wasn't until I learnt to reach over and realize it was a little bit easier there. But in between that, there was a little bit of rousting from the corporals about my methodology. But one of them said to me, look, whatever works for you, just make it work. And I went,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And we've got to be heaps more mindful of where we're pointing the weapon. I remember getting pinned heaps for it at Kapooka, just because we've got to reach over or do some funky thing so that we can actually grab the cocking handle with right hand.
I had to be really conscious of that, because same thing, a couple of times I got reamed for, pointing it, your mates, they call it. I lasered it to my mates a couple of times. But, again, you learn to adjust, and, it just sort of, it works in the end. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Throughout your whole experience, did you ever have any doubts during your training at all? Like, yeah, times where you thought maybe I shouldn't be here? And if so, what helped you keep going?
You know what? I never had any doubts. There was things that I thought maybe I'm struggling with this a bit, and, I'm a bit behind everyone else, but I never had any doubts about being there at all. I knew that, I'd worked really hard to get there, and I was going to make it work no matter what. So, yeah, there was a couple people there who, a couple of girls in my room had a cry on a few days, wondering what they were doing there. But again, I think that was just fatigue, and they weren't really thinking clearly. And, once you sit down and talk to them and, sort of talk about why we're here and, all the rest of it, everyone just pulled together then. So, yeah. And everyone made me feel welcome, no matter just being older. And even some of the full-time people that we spoke to when we were doing a few sessions together, even then, everyone was really nice and respectful and encouraging.
Yeah,
I certainly didn't feel out of place being an older person. I felt really just like everyone else there.
And yeah, like the big thing with the mindset moving into it, don't expect it to be easy to start with, because you don't want to be shocked when you get there and it's not. But also you want to have the mindset of it's doable. Like, it's there for you to pass, and it's not there for you to fail. So if you stick with it, they want you to go through, they want you to join, they want you to make it through basic training so that you can be a proficient soldier, and they'll do what they can to get you through there. But it's not going to be easy, but you have to have that mindset to just keep pushing through and get yourself through.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, look, there was a lot of it wasn't easy. It was quite challenging and hard to do some of the stuff. But, you talked about they want you to pass. Well, they do. We had our corporals where if anyone was struggling, say with me the first few days with weapons, they would put extra time aside to help you. There was extra revision or instruction. So they're there to help you get through as well. You don't look at them as they're there to sort of catch me out or make me fail or do anything like that. They really want everyone to succeed and everyone to get through, because, they're just as invested in building the future of defence the same.
So was there a point in time towards the end where you're just like, I've made it, I've done it, I've completed Kapooka? Or was that before you left, or were you already ready to go by the end of it?
Everyone was ready to go by the end of it. We were just, it was a really high level of excitement. On the Saturday, everyone was we knew that we were marching out and we'd all passed and everyone was happy. But I think even before that, on the Friday, we sort of, realised that we'd done all that we had to do. We'd done the last bit of assessment, and it was just a huge relief to know that we'd gotten through it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for reserves, because obviously it's all changed over the last few years and the course has shortened, but I'm assuming they still do the slouch hat presentation in the hallway. Do they still give you all of that before you? Nope.
No, no, none of that. That's all changed now. The
Yeah.
course has changed a little. It's 3 weeks at the moment, but that sort of stuff they don't do
Yeah.
because they have a really tight schedule as well. There's a lot for them to teach us in 3 weeks. So I suppose that's one of the things that gave way, they sort of don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I think it
And
more it would probably be along the lines of you're not actually qualified fully just yet.
yeah,
Whereas previous when we marched out of Kapooka, we were qualified as whatever it is once you finished recruit and then moving on to your IETs. So maybe that might be why as well. But it used to be because you used to stand in the hallway and they present you with your pagari and whatever else they're giving you, and it was just a really proud moment for everyone. So yeah, getting that. So it's a shame that you just don't get it anymore.
no, no, we just had music in the hallway for the last day while we were packing everything up. TCCC, there's a 5-day field exercise in your navigation course. That's the stuff that they don't have time to do in Kapooka now because of the course. So when you march out, you've passed Kapooka, but you've still got more to do to actually pass as well as starting your IETs.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So do you do anything with TCCC there now?
Not there. There's a 2-day med course that you do. They go through, it's like a whole day of PowerPoint presentations on trauma first aid, and then you do your practical and your assessments on another day. But that's pretty much it. But they don't call it Triple C. I think Triple C is a bit more involved than what we just did over the couple of days of med.
Okay, well, that's a recent thing that's probably changed again as well, because yeah, I have spoken to some reservists since it's been a 3 week course, and they did do the TCCC there, so that must have been
Well,
taken out.
I'm not. Well, they said, oh, maybe they do. No, they didn't call it TCCC there. They just called it, whatever name they gave it. But
Yeah.
they said do treat TCCC when you actually go out. So,
Okay.
yeah, don't
I
quote me
could
on
be
that.
wrong as well. I'd have to go back through
Yeah.
and look at them. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's constantly evolving, constantly changing with timeframes and trying to fit everything in and see, yeah, what they can do, what's best to do during that time as well.
Yeah, well, there's a few things that they took out that they're looking at putting back in, but that hasn't been confirmed yet. So I think the overnight trip where you go out, march out to the range and stay out there the night and everything. But I don't think they've, sort of really thought about whether that's going back in or not or when it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's constantly changing, and yeah, there's even like a lot of the length of the courses and everything. It's all up and down. Yeah, they're just trying to work out what works best, really. It's always been like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So has this experience, like going through the entire process and where you're at sitting right now, has it changed the way you see yourself and what you're actually capable of?
Oh, 100%. I always had a vision that I could do it, and that was in my head. But going through all the enlistment process, the training, and then actually Kapooka itself and just walking out the other end of it, I really, yeah, I gave me some insights into myself as to what I'm capable of, my strength of character, my strength of mind, even strength of body, and also just things like teamwork and purpose and things like that. I really come out with how do I say it? A different perception of myself,
Yep.
if that's a way to put it. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. And that evolves every time you do something like that. So that's just the beginning. And then, yeah, you push yourself through things that you never really like, even as much as you believe yourself, you're going to make it through. You're never really there until you're at the other end, and making it there. It's just that reinforcement is like, all right, I am like way more capable than what I actually thought I was. So yeah, it's just constantly builds on that characteristic to push yourself more and more and yeah, realize how capable you are.
Oh, for sure. And I'd have to say to anyone thinking about it, like if a 58-year-old lady like me can have a crack and work hard and do it, then, anybody who wants to do it, who inputs in the work, there's no reason why they can't. Little thing, I suppose there's things like, with weapons and stuff like that, something that you wouldn't know until you're actually there doing it. And it's not always easy, but again, it's mindset and it's determination. And potentially could have failed weapons. I was finding it really hard. And, I had a bit of a self-talk to myself when I went to bed one night, and I just saw I didn't come this way to, not do this. I didn't come this way to fail. So I really just knuckled down and worked really hard.
Yeah, and weapons is one of those ones you don't really know. Like if you've never grown up playing with them on a farm or anything like that, and even then, it's a completely different story. Like you might be able to shoot them, but all the army drill in the regard to the safety side of things has to be done in a particular order and
Yeah.
a particular way.
Yeah, it does. And, and it can be a little bit challenging again when you're tired and you're anxious and you're really not sure, getting all that into your head and actually being able to do it, what's in your head and what you actually do. Sometimes there's a disconnect there. So you really got to focus and, the brain says do this, and all of a sudden you're pulling the trigger when you shouldn't. You're like, oh God. But little things like that. But again, it's just that discipline that you sort of, I don't know, you sort of find a way to get through it.
Yeah, that's it. And the more you train it, it becomes second nature. So pulling the trigger when you're not meant to, I wouldn't call that a small thing, but
No,
but,
like I didn't actually do that. A couple of people did. There was a few times when we were doing different types of drills and I missed a couple of the movements. They correct you on that, and then you sort of like, yep, okay, and you stuff it up a second time and they correct you again with a few choice words, and then the third time you're like, right, I'm not getting yelled at again here, I'm doing this.
yeah. Yeah.
So, but it's foreign movements. It's foreign to most people, to especially women potentially, to handle a weapon like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And the beauty of army training, defense-wide training, is that it's broken down into very small stages and you learn them bit by bit. It's very quick. You learn to learn quick because of the way it's structured, blueprint that they follow. And we've obviously put millions of, well, I wouldn't say millions, but however many people through that type of training. And yeah, it's broken down so that anyone potentially can learn something highly skillful to, and it's broken down into very easy bite chunks so that, by the end of the day, you're able to do it as well. And so don't freak out thinking you're going to go in there and all of a sudden you're expected to be able to do all this stuff with a weapon. It's as you would have found, it's broken down into small chunks so that you can learn it pretty quickly.
Yeah, it is. They're really particular about that, especially with weapons, because, it's a really dangerous thing. So they really want to make sure that you're mastering each little task or each little part of it correctly, and that you're doing your drills right and that you're doing them safe. And they give you revision if you need to. Like, they're really good with it. It is a fast pace, but not an impossible pace, like they do make sure that you that you taught properly. And
Yeah.
So, we had a few people had to do the retesting of their weapons, and that was fine. They gave really good instruction to those people, and it was good in that sense.
Sure.
For them too. I sort of asked one of the instructors one day. We were just doing something, and I said to him, "So how do you go with your voice? Because you yell all day, every day." And he laughs at me and he goes, "I try not to talk when I get home." Because it's a lot for them as well. But
Definitely.
it's good.
Yeah, for sure. And even all those drills and everything that you learn throughout, and just particularly with weapons, it just becomes so second nature to you as soon as you pick up a weapon. Like after you've been in for a few years and you've done it countless amount of times, it's just such a natural thing for you to do. I remember not touching a weapon for ages and thinking, oh, I don't know I can't remember how to do these drills. You pick it up and it's just like, you don't even think about it. It just does it. And the worst thing is when they change the drills. It happened a couple of times throughout my time, and they'll change just small little things and you're just so used to doing it. You just keep getting pinned for it because it's just one of those things that becomes a habit. It's actually a habit because you don't have to think about it anymore. But then when they change things, it's like, oh, God damn it. Now you have to change a habit.
Yeah, definitely. And that's interesting you were saying about the habits. And that's why, the first few days when they're doing all these little things that seem meaningless to you, when they're yelling about different things, they're trying to just instill habits of automation, just a way of doing things. You don't think, you just do, kind of thing. And that's where it comes into play with weapons, is you just get used to learning that way and doing that way. And we had one day, they had a padre there, and the padre came down and said he'd have a shoot with us on one of the range days, and he hadn't shot for 5 years. and one of the corporals was giving him a little bit of instruction, and he was down there for about 15 minutes, and we were like, oh gosh, how's this going to go? And he went down and did his shoot, and when he came back, he said, well, I haven't done it for 5 years, he said, but once I, got that few minutes of instruction, it all came back to me, just everything, that muscle memory, the movements and everything like that. It just had been, even after 5 years, still.
Yeah, definitely.
It was funny watching a Padre shoot, though. It didn't kind of seem right.
Yeah, it's a bit scary sometimes.
Yeah, but no, it was good.
Awesome. All right. Well, for someone who's thinking they're too old, they're too busy, or maybe not fit enough, what would you say to them?
I would say, change your attitude, because you're never too old. Compulsory retirement at age is 65, so right up until then. But you're never too old. When you've got, say, fitness programs out there like Outperform Fitness, who are really set up to get you, all the skills and all the training that you need, there's no excuse. And if anyone's thinking of doing it, no matter how old they are, especially older people, I would say it's the best thing I've ever done. I would highly recommend it. But, again, make sure you get the right fitness program, the right training, because that's so important.
Yep. So you'd say that'd be, so because my next question was looking back now, what's the one piece of advice you'd give someone preparing for enlistment? Yeah, is that you'd pretty much cover it just then?
Yeah, 100%. Like, just that, I just can't even say how important it is for that, especially the strength training, like that was what got me through, honestly, the program that I got with you guys. At first, I found it hard at first because I'm not a big, strong person. So trying to do that and build that strength. But we did PT within the first few days, but the first time I had to really sort of load up with my pack and my weapon and do all that sort of stuff, I was just thanking my lucky stars that I got onto a program like this.
Put in some effort.
Yeah, put in some effort, and it's not just, don't just go and do any gym program. I would say to someone, you can go and lift weights and think that you're strong enough, but it's not just about lifting weights. Your program, it's so much more. It's developing all those different muscle sets and the different way, like you're lifting, and just, it's more than just going to the gym and lifting weights and doing a few runs.
Yeah, it's a different beast, isn't it?
It is. I think that's, so, and that's what people sort of, I would say to them, make sure you just get the right program.
Yeah. Awesome.
Anyway.
Okay, well, thanks heaps for sharing your experience. Yeah, it's honestly been awesome. And your whole goal initially to be inspiring people, I'm sure you're inspiring loads of people, including your son. So he's looking up to you now, which is absolutely awesome. But yeah, you've done an incredible job making your way through it. And yeah, now you're at the other end and you're actively serving, which is bloody awesome. So what is next for you anyway? What's happening with you in regard to becoming proficient in your job?
Okay, so they call a driver, or a truckie as they call me. So I've got to do all my driver training coming up. I'm attached to, sorry, my dog out. Yeah, so that'll be my next thing, is to do all the driver training tickets that I need. But the unit I'm attached to also has another skill set, and they're happy for me to learn and do training for what they do as well. So there's some really exciting things coming up.
Awesome.
I was helping them the other night. They're all heading off to Talisman Sabre, and I was sort of helping with equipment, thinking, I really wish that was me. But, as one of the captains there said to me, you've only just come out of Kapooka, but this is the things that you get to do. So next time around, when something like that comes up, you'll have that opportunity. And they're the sort of things I'm looking forward to, is, building my skill set and being able to go on those exercises and, just doing some cool stuff like that.
And it's, those skill sets constantly build. And actually, I'm pretty sure you watched Jelina's career chat. She's 45. She went through Kapooka and everything.
Yeah.
She's going to Talisman Sabre because she's still training with us. And she's going to TS very soon. So, and even one of our coaches, Amanda, she's going as well.
Yeah.
So I am not envious at all. So you can take that. I've done plenty of time up there and don't want to do it again.
Yeah. But no, look, I'm looking forward to it. I just think it's I don't know, I feel really proud of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, just being able to get through and get out of Kapooka. Kapooka's 3 weeks of your life. And if anyone, is sort of worried about it, to put it in that context, it's just 3 weeks and it's not the normal environment, but you get a lot out of it. And once you get past Kapooka, then, there's a whole world waiting for you out there, as a reservist. So
Yeah.
that's
100%.
the part that I'm looking forward to, is the reward for effort now that I've gotten through.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Take
Yeah.
advantage of it. There you
Yeah.
go. There's a lot of things to take advantage of in the
Yeah.
ADF across
Oh,
the board.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
for sure. Yeah.
awesome. Well, again, thanks for sharing your experience. It's been bloody awesome chatting to you. Yeah, and you've taken all this time out of your own day to share your experience with everyone and hopefully inspire other people to join and show them what we're actually capable of, no matter what age we're getting to. So that's really good to see.
Definitely. Thanks very much, Brady. And and I've said it a million times during this interview, but thanks to Outperform, because honestly, without you guys, I wouldn't be sitting here having this chat, I'm pretty sure.
Love it. It's been a pleasure training you, and yeah, you've been a very good client because yeah, you give you some work and you get in and do it, and that's what it's all about. You have all the tools at your disposal, but it comes down to you getting in there and doing the work.
Yeah,
Awesome.
definitely. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Well, thanks very much.
thank you. Thank you again. And if you are watching this and you want to excel in your upcoming fitness test and be in peak conditioning for your role, then I'm going to leave a link to our Fit for Service training plan. So that's part of our Battle Ready online training. And I'll just chuck that in the description so you can check that out at any point. And I'll be more than happy to help you out. But that's it for tonight. Thank you, Gayle, and see you all later.
Thanks. Bye.